Hello and welcome along to Silverstone, the second programme in the 2013 series for the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship. Top man in the 924s is Hen Sharp. We caught up with him down in the pits.
So Hen, great start to the 2013 season at Rockingham and now qualifying here at Silverstone with only hundredths of a second apart between the three of you.
I know it's going to be an immense race to watch, and I think you've just put the camera car in the car, so that'll be great for the viewers at home as well.
Weather conditions look variable. How's that stand for you?
It was spitting in the last 3 or 4 laps of qualifying. Hopefully it'll hold off, but we'll see what happens.
Now last season we saw some awesome driving from you in this machine, which if I remember it was virtually out of the box, not many changes. Are you keeping it the same this year?
Very much so, yeah. I haven't got the money. My sponsors, JS Law and Revolution Porsche, helped me a lot. But with regards to anything since Rockingham, I literally haven't touched it. It was traded back onto my drive, and I've just come here and done the tyres, and that was it. Not even been tracked or cambered or anything.
As I say, with the qualifying, hundreds of seconds certainly between the three of you there, some very close racing. Does it seem even more competitive this year?
I think so, yeah. Well, last year I came on the tail end of it at Donington. Alistair Kirkham, who's second in qualifying today, he was going for the championship, the last race, and he could have won and lost it. So he was I think he was driving a bit careful and obviously taking his time. This one I think is going to be a good race. And Simon I raced with at Rockingham, close. I think it's going to be a really, really good race for everybody.
Pole position, the outside line here at Silverstone goes to Richard Styrin, and alongside him Steve Boyles. The top 4 in the boxes completed by Will Sharp and Adam Croft. 13 full-fat Boxsters racing. We've got the 924s as well, and in between them the production Boxsters. Pole position going to Julian Brown, and Lady Racer Rebecca Jackson alongside. Hen Sharp, the man we just heard from, takes pole in the 924s with Alistair Kirkham alongside. Then it's Simon Hawksley and Clive Morrison. 924s bringing the total grid here this weekend at Silverstone to 27 cars. Chris Valentine, the driver of the 88 Boxster, being excluded from qualifying, and he's got a fair bit of work to do from the back of the grid of the lead class Boxsters. There's Hen Sharp, as you can see. As we said, the outside line is pole position here at Silverstone. Coming into line is Alistair Kirkham in red. Alistair's first meeting of the season, so let's see what he can do from there. The weather doesn't really seem to know what it wants to do today. We've had all sorts of weather, and it's been putting the teams in a little bit of a quandary in the lead up to the race. Now, qualifying times were edging up to 90 miles an hour. It's going to be a little bit slower than that. Here's the view from Adam Croft, who makes a pretty okay start, I've got to say. So Adam Croft, who had problems in testing on Friday, gets it off the line well, but it's Rick Styrin leading from Steve Boyles. Will Sharp there in the black, white and fluorescent car, chasing Arjo Josh, who I think's got away in 3rd place. Arjo qualifying in 6th. Let's have a look as they come through Maggots for the first time. Yeah, cracking start by Arjo. Will Sharp down behind him, but it's Rick Styrin, double winner at Rockingham. We had 3 races at Rockingham. He had a DNF in the first race, ironically pretty much the same as he did in the first round last year, and of course he went on to recover from that in fine style to secure the championship. So Styrin leading. 2nd position is Steve Boyles. Challenge on for 3rd. Arjo Josh in 3rd at the moment. Here comes Will Sharp. Looks down the inside. Jonathan Greensmith in 28 is there. Then it's Nick Hull, the Union flag liveried car. Adam Croft in behind him. Then it's Steve Brown, the yellow and blue car. That's the car you might remember raced in the production class last year. Oh, and Sharp's got his wheels on the dirt. Spins around and off onto the grass. Good job there's nobody coming into pit lane, so Will Sharp takes a spin. He's going to recover, but he's going to find himself down with the 924s. His brother's past him. You just saw his brother Hen Sharp, the pole position man in the 924s, go past him as the race leaders splash their way around turn 1 here at Silverstone. So Copse corner, and then it's the run down towards Maggots. Oh, spin for car number 88. Chris Valentine has the spin. This is the view from Hen Sharp. Oh, and off goes Nick Hull in the Union flag livery car. Adam Croft is out as well. Oh, it's all going off. That's Chris Valentine as well, who's got off the 88 car. So 2 machines off. Both guys on new sponsor this weekend for Nick Hull, the Union flag livery car, sponsored by Solidor. And Adam Croft, who's backed by Cubic, finds himself off the circuit. This is what happened. I think Adam, probably more in response to Nick Hull. If he hadn't have reacted, he might well have ended up hitting that car anyway. So both drivers out of the race as Rebecca Jackson fights to hold overall position there ahead of Will Sharp. Ahead of the 0 car, Rebecca Jackson, is Julian Brown, the class leader at the moment, car number 79, who set the pole position time in Class B. And 69, Mark McKenzie, going through shot as well. The great leveller, of course, this wet weather. Hen Sharp up amongst the Boxsters, and that's his brother about to try and pass him. So Will Sharp goes through on the inside on his recovery after that wild moment at the end of lap number 1, making a terrific recovery. There is Will Sharp in 66. The Sharp car's white with fluorescent appendages. Challenge on for the lead of the productions. Red car on the outside is Rebecca Jackson. Won't be able to pass there because we've got the waved yellows. The marshals, of course, trying to sort everything out, get the circuit clear of the 2 stricken cars. We mentioned Adam Croft had a problem in testing on Friday, so he's in the Taylor Foundry Motorsport spare car and changed the number of panels over so he can get his sponsor's name in front of the TV. And the spin, sadly, not the way to get that message across for Cubic, but nonetheless he did manage to get it out, and we'll see what he could do in race 2 as Mark McKenzie comes under pressure from Julian Brown. Then it's Will Sharp recovering. So Will, having dealt with one of the production Boxsters, he's got the other one in front. Julian, as you can see from the yellow square on the back of the car, racing newcomer Rebecca Jackson's going to try and go on the inside of Will Sharp. The production class, just the 2 cars in it, but it's already proving itself to be a big success. I was talking to the championship coordinator John Clark at one point last year, and he was saying that, you know, they get the cars built, then as soon as the productions are out, the drivers want to convert them up to the full race spec, and that's not a problem. That really is not a problem. It's wonderful to have more cars joining the championship, and of course you can do so in the 924 class, which continues to run superbly well. Safety car board out now, so I think a fantastic effort from the marshals, and the car going off. Now, was that a high speed off, or maybe a sort of indicative of retirement off? I think it was Anthony McVinsky. Hen Sharp still leading the 924s. There it is. It was Anthony McVinsky. So plenty of cars off circuit. Safety car scrambled, and it gives all the drivers a little bit of a chance for a breather here at Silverstone, with Richard Styron leading. There is Anthony McVinsky. I don't think it was a high speed off. I think it was something wrong with the car, and it looks to me like he's trying to nurse it back round to get it into the pits and ultimately into the paddock and get it sorted out for race 2. Adam Croft's car being pulled away, and hats off to the marshals, who of course are out in this weather all day, and if it's hot they absolutely boil in those orange suits, and if it's wet, of course, they get wet through all day. So, and we can't race without the marshals. They do a fantastic job, and there's someone doing a fantastic job. Richard Styron, race leader. Steve Boyle's in 2nd position. Arjo Josh running well. Steve Brown in yellow. That's Steve Potts in 25. Both those guys, of course, moving up from the productions last year. Gary Goodwin in the black and white car down behind them. And safety car is certainly going to be welcome for Will Sharp, because this is going to put him back up amongst the race Boxster class. So he'll get the opportunity to pass a few cars. Qualified 3rd, so he's got the option to do that. Now the Boxsters are coming through there. There is Hen Sharp, the leader of the Boxsters. Simon Hawksley is in the mix as well, and running 2nd in the Boxsters ahead of Clive Morrison. Lights are now out on the safety car, so we're going to go racing at the end of this lap. And Richard Styron, the reigning champion, car number 1, company director of Styron Motors, based in Leeds. Produces a lot of very quick racing drivers, does Yorkshire. And Richard Styron, one of those. And let's see how he does to start. Wide sweeping line around the Brooklands Nuffield complex. Arjo Josh still there in 3rd place, with Steve Brown behind him. Steve Potts not too far behind as well for this restart. And here's the view, and already on the gas is Richard Styron, who heads away down the road looking for his 3rd race win of the season. He's on his way to fastest lap as well. He seems to have the measure over there. There's the 3rd place car, Jonathan Greensmith, the ex-Mazda man, and putting pressure on. You can see how squirrely the car gets. He is absolutely on the limit of adhesion as they go through maggots, and so is Rick Styron. Did you see the twitch from the car there? Same from the 2nd place car of Steve Boyles. These guys are really fighting these cars at the sharp end. It's going to be the ultimate in car control that's going to fight through here. But Rick Styron's got the lead at the moment. The TF Motorsport car spin for David Jones. Car number 8, David Jones, the 53-year-old from Beckenham in Kent, newcomer to the championship. I've got to say, as a newcomer, these are probably not the conditions that you would want. Arjo Josh still there in 44, running strongly ahead of Steve Brown as they go down into Brooklands once again. Will Sharp making up positions there just ahead of Gary Goodwin. Steve Potts on the inside. Great recovery from Will Sharp in 66. The safety car definitely played into his hands. Welcome back to Silverstone. There is 46, Gary Goodwin, running in the full race Boxsters, continuing on his way, and the conditions have caught out a number of drivers. Before the break we had a safety car, and you can see a lot of the drivers still fighting it, and Nick Perks takes a spin. Nick Perks is off into the gravel, brand new driver not only to the championship but to motor racing, sharing the car with Caterham star J.M. Lippman, so absolutely no disgrace in Nick Perks' performance. He'll be back out for sure, but if you give me a brand new car to motor racing, come out and race in the Porsches in the wet brands. Now the marshal's telling everyone to slow down, and I guess that's because of Perks. Now, is that message just for Rick Styron from the rest of the field? Slow down, Richard. No, it isn't, because 2nd and 3rd still chasing hard, and up to 2nd now has gone Jonathan Greensmith, ahead of Steve Boyles. Arjo Josh 4th position, then it's Steve Brown. These are the leaders in the 924. Simon Hawks in car number 3, and taking a spin is Pete Smith in 22. Now Pete's been showing some great pace, and that's the fine line, isn't it? The great pace in these wet conditions can wind up with a gyration or a half gyration off the circuit. This is the battle for the lead, and it's Simon Hawksley in car 3 leading the 924s from Hen Sharp. So there is Hen. Runs off circuit there. That's when Hawksley made his way through. Very cool driving stance from Hen Sharp, and off the circuit goes Linda Warren in the Victoria Motorsport car. 2 lady racers, both acquitting themselves real well as we go back to the battle for the 924 lead, and it's Hen Sharp down the inside as they go into Brooklands, and Simon Hawksley has to concede it, the number 3 car. 31-year-old from Aberdeen, the ex-Adam Croft car, so Adam will be not wanting to rub it in, but Adam will be watching from the sidelines, his old car being put through its paces and challenging for the lead in class. We go back on board with Hen Sharp. Be good if you could fit a few more sponsors on there. All these guys work so hard to come out and race these wonderful cars, and if you get the opportunity to come and see these cars racing, we would very much welcome you along to the paddock. The next race in England is the 14th of July at Snetterton, and between now and then we've got 3 races at Zandvoort in Holland, which is going to be absolutely mega. We look forward to bringing you those races here on Motors TV. There's Rebecca Jackson going through shot, and she's ahead of Mark McKenzie as the battle for the 924s continues. Clive Morrison's the 2nd black car. He's just out of shot at the moment, but Simon Hawksley's putting pressure on the race leader and looks up the inside as they now go on to the Wellington Straight. Nose in front at the moment from Hen Sharp. He's the car white with the fluorescent wing mirrors. He's got the race lead of the 924s. And Simon Hawksley challenging him hard. Back down the order, Julian Brown, who was the pole man in the Boxsters, right up amongst the... That was the 88 car of Chris Valentine. Saw him have a spin earlier on. So Hen Sharp still there, and Simon Hawksley trying to put pressure on, and Hawksley thinking about looking up the inside line. He's too far back to do anything at the moment. And these 924s up amongst the slower Boxsters. As we said, the conditions really levelling things out here. Some of the Boxsters will get into lapping territory of the slower 924s as well. The front three pretty much clear. There is car number 92, the man who is in third at the moment in the 924s, Clive Morrison, ex-Formula 3 mechanic in the 80s and a specialist Porsche mechanic. Lives up in Stockport, so if you need your porker fixed and you live up there, he's the guy to talk to. But look at this, cracking scrap still for the lead. Hen Sharp still out front in the 64 car. The business development manager in a property conveyancing business. 10 years racing MGs, and he goes a little bit wide. And coming up the inside is Simon Hawksley. Side by side for the 924, battle for the lead. Down the straight, it's all going to be about outright speed. Who's got the line down into the Brooklands complex? Now Arjo Josh in 44 has now been passed by Will Sharp, so Will definitely benefited from the safety car. He's got in front, but the man from Brighton having a super run, Arjo Josh. Wonderful to see him back in the championship. And at the moment challenging or racing hard for fourth. That's Simon Hawksley. Hawksley's off. That surely is the battle for the 924 sorted. Now he's off the track. Let's have a look at what happened. We go on board with Hen Sharp. Hawksley's on the outside line. Hen goes out to the curb, doesn't go too far over the curb. He's aware that he was sharing pretty much the same piece of tarmac, and Hawksley goes off into the dirt, and Hen Sharp goes off into the distance in the class lead now. Not too far into the distance, because Clive Morrison's not that far behind, to be fair to him. Rebecca Jackson has got herself into the lead of the production Boxsters, and this is the scrap for fourth place. Arjo Josh having a good go. Will Sharp still there at the moment in the 66 car. Richard Styron still the race leader, fastest lap for him. 1 minute 14.1, 79.56 miles an hour, so about 10 mile an hour slower than they were in qualifying, but still a fair old pace. Fastest lap in the productions is Rebecca Jackson, so it looks like a possible win and fastest lap for Rebecca. And Pete Smith, the man we saw going off the circuit in the 924s, is running well. He's got the fastest lap in those as well, 1 minute 21.5. But Richard Styron clear from the yellow car of Jonathan Greensmith. Greensmith can't win with the reigning champion, who comes down the straight into Brooklands for the last time. Very neat turn in. He'll look in his mirror and see a little bit of a gap. Richard lapped a number of cars, but that's caused no problem for him. He got the car off the line at the start. Hasn't really been troubled too much. The safety car would have been a little bit of a nerve-wracking moment for him. And other than that, he's dealt with the back markers. There's the checkered flag, and it's win number 3 of the 2013 season for reigning champion Richard Styron. You can see the leading 924s going through, just going through shot ahead of him. Hen Sharp's got another lap to do, so too has Clive Morrison. It's a spin for Paul Bravo, and Bravo to 44, Arjo Josh, who's got up into fourth place ahead of Will Sharp. Steve Boyles will take third, Arjo's going to take fourth position. There's the checker, a cracking result for the Sussex driver, who opens his account with fourth position. And of course, let's not forget, it's a first podium for Jonathan Greensmith in the yellow car there. Greensmith with 5th, 4th and 5th positions at Rockingham, and he's on the podium, and there's Hen Sharp! He's got the winning habit and he's still pleased with it, and so too is Richard Styron, who takes win and fastest lap ahead of John Greensmith. First podium for him, well done. Steve Boyles third, Arjo Josh gets the better of Will Sharp for fourth place, with Stephen Brown rounding off the top 6.
John, a great race there, but Richard takes some catching.
Oh yeah, it always does, to be honest with you. he's a full second in front of us, to be honest with you. We've just got it's a learning curve this year for us, so we've just got to bide this time and see if we can catch up with him at the end of the year, so we just have to see how it goes.
Early days, tricky conditions out there though, but the main battle seems to be with you in second and third place throughout the race.
Yeah, it was a really interesting race, to be honest with you. He did mess up on the bottom corner under braking, and that's how I managed to go overtake him. But yeah, it was a really good race, and it's the first time I've ever driven this car in the wet, so it were all new to us. The setups, we didn't even know what setup to go with, so we just softened it off and hope for the best, so it was quite a good result really.
Steve, a great race there, a great battle between you and John.
Yeah, it was good. It was probably one of the best races I've had in the wet, which I've not raced in before. Held on to second place for a third time, and then Jonathan came by me in the end. I managed to stick with him, but yeah, I never got by.
Now, we caught up with him earlier. He was saying about the safety car. Did it help you or not?
No, I don't think it really made much difference to me. It kept him close to me, but he was catching anyway. Made no difference.
Now, he's standing in good stead at the moment with the championship points. Richard is a hard one to catch. Any new strategy to try and close that gap?
Yeah, I keep thinking of him all the time. I'll come up with something, but not at the moment. Now he's going to be tough to beat.
Richard, what a great and challenging race. The weather conditions there certainly didn't help.
No, half an hour before the race, I feel really sorry for the teams, the guys at TF Motorsport, because we had hail, sunshine, pouring rain. They must have changed tyres 2-3 times on all the cars in the garage here. So Dave and the team lead, they chose just the right tyres, and we drove down to the grid straight on track. I don't think I've come across those sort of conditions before. It wasn't full rain. It was like a really greasy, slimy, 1 second sort of loss of concentration, you've been off, and quite a few people spun. I can fully understand that. And then I saw Jonathan Greensmith and Steve Boyles. They were doing a great job. So just to keep my wits about me and just bring it home safely. I just wanted to thank the team, because without the car I had yesterday, I wouldn't have been able to do that, and without Logston's support. So I'm really, really pleased.
Hen Sharp takes the win in the 924s with Clive Morrison second ahead of Alistair Kirkham. Pete Smith getting the fastest lap. The Productions won by Rebecca Jackson. Win and fastest lap for her ahead of Julian Brown.
And a great race there. Challenging conditions, and Simon was right on your tail for a while.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, from the word go, it was really, really treacherous out there. Maggots there was a lot of oil down. 2 cars went off, I think, actually, because of that. There was no grip at all. So I just tried to keep it on the black stuff, as I've always been taught to do. And then Simon, as I was taking it a bit steady, came up and was sniffing around, and he overtook me, managed to overtake me, and I overtook him back at Luffield. And on the last corner, just after Luffield, I managed to edge him a bit wide, and he ended up going to the gravel and losing a bit of time, and then it was just a case of just preserving the lead, really.
First round of the 2013 season, a new class for you, and P1. Can't be bad.
I know, it's a great start to the season, and it was the first time driving the Boxster, and Silverstone is a good circuit, and it's been a fantastic day.
The transition from the 94 class to this, is it easy?
The transition from the 924 class up to the Boxster S is you've got to put some work into exploring how the car handles, because the 924 and the Boxster is completely different going into corners, so that is something that you have to adapt.
Welcome back to Silverstone. Still wet here in Northamptonshire, so let's find out a little bit more about tyres and the part they play in the racing.
So Alan, welcome to Silverstone. Some exciting racing so far.
Thank you. Yes, it's been very good. I mean, fortunately the weather is still dry at the moment. I'm not sure what it's going to be like for the Porsche race. I think it's about a 70 or 80% chance it's going to be raining at the time, which should make for an interesting race.
So Toyo Tires is a prestige brand, and tell me about how it got involved with this particular championship.
Yes, it's a prestige brand. We've been involved with the Porsches for a few years now. It started a long time ago when they had the 924s, just the 924 racing. They were concerned about the tyres that they were currently using. The performance wasn't good, so we got involved, helped develop the cars around our tyre. and it progressed on when the Boxsters started to enter into the championship. They did a lot of testing on it to make sure the tyres worked. They're pleased with the performance. They're pleased with the all-round performance in wet and dry conditions. It's a very predictable tyre, so it gives the drivers the ability to concentrate on the driving rather than having to worry about what the tyre's going to do, really.
Adam, here we are, race 2 coming up, starting from the back of the grid. Quite a challenge.
We are starting from the back of the grid. We had an unfortunate race yesterday in the rain. We've had an unfortunate weekend, really. We had some difficulties in testing on Friday, which meant I was running in the team's spare car for the race and qualified 4th, but then spun off, unfortunately, in the rain on the 2nd lap. Lucky not to have any damage, but it does mean we're starting from the back of the grid today.
That probably puts you a bit more of adrenaline buzz, a bit more fired up, I'd imagine, for this one.
Yeah, it gives us some opportunities, doesn't it? It can't go any further backwards, so if we can make our way through the field and try and pick off a few positions on the first lap and then see where we end up, and hopefully if I can follow in the footsteps of my teammate Rick Styron, who seemed to go well from the back of the grid at the last race, then we'll hopefully get some good results at the end.
Adam Croft putting himself under a bit of pressure there then. Richard Styron, his teammate on pole position, the grid based on the results of race number 1. That means Jonathan Greensmith starts alongside him. And there's Adam and Nick Hull, who sadly retired from the first race of the day at the back of the grid. J.M. Littman comes in as well. He's sharing the car with Nick Perk, so it's his turn to race now. Rebecca Jackson on pole for the productions, Julian Brown alongside. And then the 924s, Clive Morrison and Hen Sharp resume battle. Carl Rossin and Alistair Kirkham on row 2. And Pete Smith, of course, he's 5th. He was the fastest man on track in race number 1. Anthony McVinsky, of course, was a retirement in race 1, so he starts at the back of the 924s. Full grid of cars ready, and conditions much better in actual fact now, so the cars will be edging towards that 90-mile-an-hour barrier average that we had in qualifying today. Still the odd little bit of spray out on circuit as we get ready to go. Looks like a long wait for the cars to go into formation as we go on board with Nick Hull. So Nick's away. Chris Valentine in 88 is the man we've got for company on the inside line. It looks like a good sweep round the outside. Hen Sharp gets away well in the 924s. Car number 41 is Carl Rossin, the white car, who's got away well too. Gary Goodwin about to be passed by Nick Hull. So Hull, we know, has the pace. Conditions hopefully will not lead to a safety car in this one, because the safety car does eat into the circuit time that the drivers have. 20-minute races. Hen Sharp's lost the race lead in the 924s, but he's got a fair bit of time. You can see he's got his countdown on the dashboard of the 924. 77 Steve Boyles looking for second position, and John Greensmith on the outside. Side by side they go. Nice bit of car positioning there from Boyles, who goes up into second. Arjo Josh is there in 4th place. Then it's Will Sharp. This is the view from Arjo's car. Fairly high mounted camera gives us a good angle of Arjo at the wheel. Jonathan Greensmith in front of us, but Rick Styron getting away. Steve Boyle second, so it's pretty much the same story as race number 1. And Will Sharp looking at the outside line, side by side as they go into Copse Corner. We're looking at, it's Boyles from Greensmith, and then Sharp round the outside. He won't want to go too far over the curves, because there's a very clear boundary that the drivers aren't allowed to continually put 4 wheels over the curbs on the way around Copse Corner. And it looks like Arjo's down in 5th position at the moment. Steve Brown behind them. So all sorting themselves out. And Arjo fighting his way back up the inside line. This is the view from the 5th position car. P4 on the inside. Side by side they go. Will Sharp, and coming down on the inside of John Greensmith as well. Very late on the brakes. How the cars didn't touch there, I don't know. That was inch precision driving from Will Sharp as they come out of the complex. And you can see Greensmith being put under pressure. The car goes a little bit wide through Luffield and now through Woodcote, back across the line. Arjo Josh, wonderful shots that we're getting on board that car. Probably a good job we haven't got the onboard with Richard Styron, because all we see at the moment is clear track. Styron with 3 wins out of 4 races to open his campaign for this year. Sharp goes through and up into 3rd position. Steve Boyles now ahead of him. And I think Will Sharp's probably going to be ruining that moment off on the dirt earlier on in race number 1, but it's Styron leading. Steve Boyle second, then Will Sharp, followed by J.M. Lippmann, Arjo Josh 5th position. Much drier conditions, and we should see a bigger differential between the cars in this race. Fastest lap in the previous race set by Richard Story at 1 minute 14, and we're expecting to break the 1 minute 10 barrier quite easily here. 22 Peter Smith dicing with Carl Rossin in 41. Rossin looking up the inside line, the 44-year-old from Bedford, so this pretty much as near to a home game as he gets. Nick Hull making progress through the field, chasing Steve Potts at the moment. Now the car we can't see is Adam Croft, who looks like he might have had something broken on the car in that incident. Maybe that he didn't know about. That can very often happen, and Styron gets all 4 wheels across. He's going to have to watch that. As we said, if you do it continually, the clerk of the course will take a very dim view of running that. We know he doesn't need to do it from the pace he's got, and the judges of fact, the clerks that effectively referee the racing, will know that the odd slip is perfectly okay, but consistent lappery like that will possibly negate a time penalty or maybe a drive-through. But Styron knows what he's doing, so shouldn't be too much of a problem as we go back down the order and see Chris Valentine heading up the 2 production Boxsters. And at the moment it looks like Julian Brown wants his revenge on the lady racer Rebecca Jackson. Those two very closely matched, which is wonderful to see. Hugh Peart in car number 36, just leading the battle there. Chris Valentine still ahead of the 2 production cars. Julian Brown having a slightly tighter line there. Rebecca Jackson might get a better run as they go down towards Copse Corner. Chris Valentine in the Newbridge Motorsport prepared car, the 49-year-old from Leighton Buzzard. Now Adam Croft still chasing Nick Hull, so Nick making a bit of progress. Adam, I don't think making it as much as he would have liked. And this is the view from Nick Hull, who goes down the inside line into Brooklands Corner. I think he's made that stick, so a good manoeuvre from him. Clive Morrison there in the 92 car. 72 machine is Alistair Kirkham. First meeting of the season, and 3rd place. So it was a 924 podium for Alistair in the first race of the day, as Brown and Jackson continued their production squabble. You can see how very evenly matched the productions are. And if you're a newcomer, you've got this choice now. Do you come into the production Boxsters or do you go and race the 924? Plenty of choice, and of course you've got the option to move up as well into the race Boxster Class 2. So through they go. Chris Valentine just leading those at the moment. Hen Sharp putting in another terrific performance ahead of Clive Morrison in 92. And it's Alistair Kirkham still in 3rd place in the Boxsters, in the 924s, as the production Boxsters continue battle. Rebecca Jackson getting much closer to the 79 car. Is she going to be able to have a look up the inside as they go down the Bentley Straight? It's a very long run now, one of the longest straights in motorsport. Rick Styron still there in lead position. 2nd place is Steve Boyles in 77. Jonathan Greensmith in 28. Looked very happy in the wet. I've got to say, a superb 2nd position. Steve Boyles with his 3rd podium of the year. Rebecca Jackson spins. So Rebecca spins out of it. That's going to take the pressure big time now off Julian Brown as we go back to the scrap going on. Alistair Kirkham in the 924s. Rebecca's back on track, and a fair bit of work to do with some of her old sparring partners in the 924 class. But as I say, Julian Brown now with the pressure off. So Hen Sharp leading. Alistair Kirkham in red goes up to 2nd in the 924s. So some really good scrapping going in the older class. It's Clive Morrison in 92 running in 3rd place at the moment. So the lead podium position, the same as it was in race 1, 2nd and 3rd swap round. Looks like a very good scrap going on between those cars at the moment. through Beckett's corner they go. Simon Hawksley is still there and running in 4th position in class at the moment. And you can see how busy things get for the race leaders when they come up amongst the back markers. 36 Hugh Peart, 82 is Paul Bravo. We saw him have a spin towards the tail end of race number 1. Arjo Josh makes his way past the back marker, still got Jonathan Greensmith in front of him, past the 36 car of Hugh Peart. The back markers behaving themselves impeccably, and now it's a run down into Brooklands, and Josh looks at the inside line. He's too far back to make a manoeuvre here, but Greensmith's under pressure, drifts wide. Are we going to see a change of place? Josh on the outside line, side by side as they come on the second part of the complex, now through Woodcote, down past where they'll see the checker flag at the tail end of the race. And Josh really putting the pressure on the man who finished second in race number 1. So Jonathan Greensmith under big pressure. Welcome back to Silverstone, a cracking race, a double header for the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship of 2013, and we're looking at the battle for 4th position between Jonathan Greensmith and Arjo Josh. At the moment it's Greensmith, the ex-Mazda front runner, who's got it. Arjo this time looking on the outside lines. They go down into the complex. Rebecca Jackson had a spin earlier on in the race. She won the production Boxster class in race number 1. She's about to be passed by Richard Styrin. There is the 924 leader, Henry Sharp. Clive Morrison challenging hard for second place in the 924s. It's Alistair Kirkham second in that class at the moment, and Rebecca Jackson a wee bit shy of Julian Brown, but working her way back through the 924s, which is good to see. So Alistair Kirkham second in class at the moment. Simon Hawksley in 4th, takes a wide line. He's going to try and get up onto the podium, and Richard Styrin scything his way through the field. I think he's actually going to wind up lapping some of the Boxsters as well, such is his progress. There's Mark McKenzie, Nick Hull, Adam Croft, a little bit further back than we would normally see those cars, but absolutely no doubt that they're enjoying their racing. Paul Bravo in 82 finds himself down a position. Paul, I think, running about 7th at the moment in class. As we go back to Rick Styrin, unsurprisingly fastest man on track, lap 6, fastest lap of the race, 66.436, 88 miles an hour, and that's even despite cutting his way through the traffic. Here's the second place driver, Steve Boyles. Will Sharp's still there, and this is the view from Arjo Josh. You see the speed differential between the Boxsters and the 924s, and the Boxsters jockeying for position as well. Arjo Josh still there in 5th place. Jonathan Greensmith ahead of him. Stephen Brown down behind them, running at the moment in 6th place. Then Mark McKenzie is in 7th place, and I think Mark McKenzie heading for his best Boxster finish so far, so that's going to be good for him. But Arjo Josh, very much unfinished business, a little bit rusty in the car, perhaps you might have thought, coming into this round, having missed 3 races at Rockingham, but far from it. All over the back of Greensmith as they come down the straight. Goes for the switchback, dives down to the inside line. Has Jonathan Greensmith seen him? And who's going to be on the brakes? Arjo Josh is through into 4th position. Wonderful piece of overtaking by the Sussex driver. And John Greensmith, I've got to say, very respectful driving from him as well, as Richard Styrin continues to lead. There is Styrin, the race leader. You can still see he's got Hensharp between himself and the second place man. Steve Boyles has off. Goes Steve Potts into the gravel. Bits of car flying everywhere. He's out of the race. Disappointment for him. But Richard Styrin still ticking off the laps in the number 1 car. Now waved yellows. Now is that safety car board a prominent display, or we just got the waved yellows for the moment? It was a safety car in race number 1. Potts' car either being moved of its own volition or being, I suspect it's being recovered as Nick Hull continues on his way, chased by Adam Croft. Solidor car leads Cubic Machine at the moment, actually with the different colours on Adam Croft's car. We can call it the Cubic Cube. Have that one for nothing. There we go, up across the line again. There is car number 60, Stephen Brown, running in 6th position, getting into lapping territory. Rebecca Jackson up ahead. Clive Morrison got the fastest lap in the 924, so the been shared out so far between 4 different drivers. Simon Hawksley had 2 fastest laps at Rockingham. Hen Sharp got 1. Then we have Pete Smith getting fastest lap in race 1. And Clive Morrison with that honour at the moment. David Jones in car number 8. He had a wild moment off the circuit earlier on. He's down in 22nd position in the race at present, but no doubt enjoying himself. Raced a bit of road and production saloons a couple of decades back. And good to have him back in the championship, as we see Linda Warren in 42, the mum of 2 teenage children. Comes from Harrogate, so another Yorkshire driver. We've got some quick drivers from Yorkshire, as we said, in race number 1, and Hugh Peart in 36 still there and running well. 53 years of age, comes from Northwood. So still the battling continues. 72 and 92 very much hard at it. Alistair Kirkham and Clive Morrison. Kirkham 2nd position in class at the moment. You can see Hen Sharp's got a car in front, just trying to work out. Hen Sharp a little way down the road. He's got one of the Boxsters between himself and the battle for 2nd position in the 924s. On board with Nick Hull again. So Hen Sharp chasing Julian Brown, the production Boxster class leader at the moment. Mark McKenzie running well in 69. He's in lapping territory. Then it's Nick Hull, Union flag livery car, 8th place for him at the moment. Adam Croft is there in 9th. And here's the race leader, still putting clear of the 2nd place car of Steve Boyles in car number 77. So blue flags being waved to the 924s to hold their line, allow the leader a chance to go through. Past David Jones goes the race leader, so Jones finds himself a couple of laps down on the leader now. Let's see if we can see the 2nd place car. And in fact, change for 2nd position. Will Sharp now ahead of Steve Boyles. Here comes Sharp, the white car, fluorescent mirrors. Steve Boyles down to 3rd. It looks like it could be another podium for Boyles. His only finish off the podium so far was 5th position in race 2 at Rockingham. So he's been a very consistent point scorer. Hen Sharp goes through ahead of Mark McKenzie. Nick Hull, those two having a good old scrap. Adam Croft goes to the outside line. This is the onboard from Adam's car, looks to the outside. Let's see what he can do about Nick Hull, both drivers from Harrogate. 12 years difference between the two. Adam Croft, the junior of the pair. And Croft through on the inside line. Nick Hull, I think, is going to cede that place past Julian Brown in the production Boxster. And Mark McKenzie coming under pressure as well. So McKenzie scrapping at the moment over 7th place. There is McKenzie, the 7th place man. We're on board with the 8th place car. Nick Hull goes back through. Great move by Nick Hull. Hen Sharp's trying to go through on the inside as well. Hen Sharp in 64, punching above his weight very definitely here. Look at the lead that he's got over the other 924s. Looks like he's on his way to a double win. 13th position overall, 11th in race number 1. So here comes this gaggle of Boxsters, very much involved in their mix. And Mark McKenzie, so good to see him running well. The 69 car owns the McKenzie Hotels chain, car prepared by Victoria Motorsport. Only made his debut in the 94s back in 2010, but enjoying his racing this weekend, as is Rick Styron, who's on his way to a 4th win from 5 races. There's the checkered flag. Rick Styron takes the win, and he's some 3 seconds clear of Will Sharp. And for my money, Will Sharp very much giving notice of intent that he is closing in, I think, pace-wise on Richard Styron. Here is his brother Hen Sharp, who's going to take the checkered flag in the 924s. It's going to be Alistair Kirkham taking 2nd in class. Another cracking race day from the Toyo Tires Porsche Championship this weekend. But Rick Styron, the reigning champion, very much setting out his stall for this year. It was a non-finish at the first round, as we mentioned, but he takes the win and fastest lap. Will Sharp second from Steve Boyles, Arjo Josh fourth, then Jonathan Greensmith in fifth position, and Steve Brown rounding off the top six. It was Mark McKenzie who got the better of that scrap for seventh.
2 races, 2 wins, not a bad weekend.
Yeah, I think the weather's played a big part. We had a long chat whether to go wet or dry setup, because as you can see now the rain's coming in again. We took a massive risk and went dry setup. I noticed Jonathan Greensmith went wet setup, and I just had a bit of luck, it didn't rain. Made a good move on the outside to get the lead, and delighted. And then I could see behind Boyles and Sharp having a great race, and we came across traffic, so I just tried to keep the car nice and looked after and didn't be too hard on the brakes and the tyres. I'm delighted for the Logston group, because without these guys I wouldn't be racing, and also the PFP group.
William, great racing again, but there's some good battles throughout that.
Yeah, it was amazing battles through that. That's the most enjoyable race I've had in the championship since I've been going. And yeah, it was not a bad start. Vic got a bit of a bad start, but we were kind of bunched up. And then it was a matter of picking off people like Arjo, who must have improved no end. This car's got real good pace. Jonathan Greensmith managed to get by him, which was good.
Hen Sharp wins the 924s again. Alistair Kirkham second, this time from Clive Morrison, who gets fastest lap. Julian Brown gets win and fastest lap in the productions, ahead of Rebecca Jackson.
Hen, another great result for you, but not the best of starts.
No, I missed a gear on the start, lost a position, luckily managed to take it back going into maggots, so led from there really.
Successful weekend, pretty unstoppable so far in the championship.
Yeah, I know. The problem is I'm missing Zandvoort the next round, but I can drop those scores at the end of the year. Fingers crossed I'll be out at Snetterton raring to go and back to winning ways.
So with that drop round, still possible for the number 1 slot at the end of the year, all being well?
I hope so. That's what I'm going for. All my sponsors, JS Law and Revolution Porsche, they're all working towards that, and we'll have to see what happens later on in the year.
Championship table looks like this. Will Sharp leads the Boxsters from Steve Boyles, Rick Starr in third from John Greensmith, Steve Brown in fifth, and Adam Croft in sixth position. Don't forget drop scores to come into play by the end of the season though. The 924s look like this. Clive Morrison leading the title hunt with Hen Sharp second and Simon Hawksley third. Julian Brown top of the stack in the productions, ahead of Bernie Printy and Rebecca Jackson in third. Join us next time. We're across the water in Zandvoort.